Hey guys, welcome to musicstudios.co.nz. I'm your host Ralphie, and here with Jesse Wilde, all-round superstar from Studio 38. Okay.
It's got two names, this place, Studio 38 Wilde Records, recording studios.
Wilde Records, which is your record label.
Yeah, so basically Studio 38 is the whole building because it's a very multi-purpose building, this, which we love. And Wilde Records Recording Studios is the kind of recording part of it.
The two divisions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, there's a lot of activity here, and you are a busy man, so thank you for squeezing us into your schedule.
Mate, it's my pleasure to have you here.
And tell us a little bit about what you do at these premises.
Okay. Well, this is my second studio, or technically my third, because I guess my first studio, I'll show you my first studio. I didn't have this prepared. Is right here in my parents' bedroom when I was probably, my bedroom of my parents' house when I was probably about 12, I had this. And this is where it all started. More technology than the Beatles had to record Sgt. Pepper's right here. 4-track on cassette. And they had a 4-track to do Sgt. Pepper's, and you can ping-pong record on that. What a great way to start. So that's where it all started. Bought my first house when I was 27. I've been a touring musician. I still am, always playing, always touring. Bought my first house when I was 27 after I got back from America. And it was advice from John Mellencamp. I spent quite a bit of time with Johnny Cougar, and he had his own studio, and I'd been signed to a couple of little labels. They weren't big labels, but they were labels nonetheless. And I got a little frustrated on the budget constraints of how much albums should cost. And I was hearing albums that cost millions, and I'm saying, my album doesn't sound like this. I wanted it to sound better. So it was actually John Mellencamp's idea. He said, build your own studio. Yeah. And I thought at 27 years old, I mean, I never even thought of owning a house, but I got a job. I went and I did the terrible thing. A working musician, I've been working since I was playing professionally since I was 17. I was 3 years underage back then, the drinking law. It was 20. And I got a job at 27 and I bought a house. And next to that house was 2 double skyline garages joined together. One was the actual garage, and one was like a rumpus room, they call it in this country. And I double stud that with the help of Marshall Day Acoustics, who are probably the top acoustics company in New Zealand. I think they did, pretty sure they did Peter Jackson's film and audio studios. They helped me design the acoustics, and we built an extension to that as well. So it was almost twice, it was bigger than my house and the studio, and I had one room in the house, the smallest room, had 2 flatmates, and I lived in the studio. Build it and they will come, and we built the studio out of a garage. It was quite a good sized studio. That's where Wilde Records began. Jesse Wilde is the stage name, my real name's Aron. You can go on my website and hear that story.
Yeah, this is him here. He's got his own songbook, Jesse Wilde. He's a prolific songwriter.
I am.
And so you do other things here in the studio as well.
Yeah.
So you've got, you work with TV companies and things like that.
Yeah, we've worked with Face TV, who used to be Triangle TV. It was community access, but now they're getting a bit more traction. They've got John Campbell's new show, and my wife, Kath Vincent, is a motivational speaker, and she decided to do her own TV show, so we started filming that in the Face TV studios down at the bottom of town. And I got a little bit sick of driving into the city all the time, and I thought, oh, it'd be easier if we just build our own studio, because I'm a bit like that. It wasn't that easy to build this place, to be honest. It took us 3 years, but we had this place up and running within about almost just over a year, and then finishing all the rest of it took a little longer.
There's something definitely satisfying about, like you say, having your own studio, because you can find, like I hear stories of, was it Prince or something, that he would hire out and sleep in the studio.
Well, that's it.
And he got some of his best songs, like Purple Rain and all that.
Absolutely. Some of my best songs came to me at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I hop out of bed, walk downstairs, and I've got all of this set up.
Ready to go, yeah.
And you can just capture it at 3 o'clock in the morning. I mean, personally, I recommend sleeping, but sometimes when an idea comes to you, you want to get it out.
Yeah.
Sometimes you wake up and then you go back to sleep, and you wake up and you press play. Apparently that's how Satisfaction came about from the Stones. Keith woke up, he didn't even remember. I had a little tape deck, reel to reel beside his bed, hit it, did the riff, went back to sleep, woke up in the morning and noticed that it was spinning around. He forgot to press stop.
Yeah.
And then he rewinds it. Hey, that's really good. He didn't even remember doing it.
Yeah.
So
how do you get those sort of songs come to you through a dream? How often does that happen
when
for
a
yourself?
song is ready to come, it comes.
Yeah.
And the best songs I truly believe are written in 3 minutes, but they're not written in 3 minutes because you have been thinking about that song maybe for 10 years. And you've been thinking about it in the back of your mind somewhere. It's been lurking, but when it's ready to come, it's ready to come, and that's why you have to be ready. Because if you miss it, it's gone forever. I believe that, and you've got to write it down. You've got to record it. Not just writing it down doesn't help. You've got to record it because you need the melody. You need the magic.
When I was studying piano, I think I was about 13 years old. I came up with a riff, and it only took 20-something years for the song to actually come together. I think the lyrics came like 10 years when I was like 23. So it was like 20 years of this. But do you find for yourself, the best songs are those ones where you kind of nurture them, play them out a little bit, it sort of develops as you go? Or do you like capturing a moment and then, release it the following day or the next week or something? What's your take
I don't
on that?
think there's a hard and fast rule.
Yeah.
So I think one of the best songs that I've ever written, I co-wrote, and I haven't done a lot of co-writing. I was starting to do more recently, but and like some of my absolute favorite songs came to me in 3 or 4 minutes. But as I explained, that's just when it was ready to come out. But then there's a song I wrote called Ghost Town Road, which I think is probably the best crafted song I've done, and that took like 20 hours of solid co-writing. We sat there, and this guy named Rick Beresford, who's actually with one of the head, so I think he's the head songwriting coach at the Nashville Music University in Nashville, and he literally dragged the song out of me like line by line, and it's like having teeth pulled almost. And I'm explaining because he had a 2.5 year waiting list of people to write songs with him. And I met him it was an APRA event. They call it over there. I think it's AMCOS, or it's
Is it the Song Hub thing?
Yeah, no,
it
this guy, Ralph Murphy, put on this event. And it was like introducing some new bands to the industry, and I would just happen to be there. And every second person in Nashville is a songwriter, and they'll give you their card and say, let's write a song. And so Rick Beresford came up. I didn't know him from a bar of soap, gave me his card, and then Ralph Murphy saw this interaction, and he came up and he goes, he's like the head of APRA over there. They've got another, I think it's AMCOS, and said, did Rick give you his card? I'm like, yeah, I get probably 20 of these a night. And he says, oh, no, you should take him up on that because he's got like this massive waiting list of people to write with him. And so we got together at 10 o'clock a.m. on a Monday, drank red wine, which is a nice thing to do in the morning, and started. And he said, what have you been up to? What have you been up to? And I said, well, I've just recently driven almost all of Route 66. They were still restoring Route 66. This is several years ago. Before the movie Cars. Now Route 66 is becoming more and more popular. And he said, oh, what was it like? And I said, well, it's just a bunch of ghost towns. And, and he said, oh, Ghost Town Road. And then we wrote this Ghost Town Road. And so I'd explain it to him, and then he basically he's very artistic, but he wanted the words to be my words. And It took 10 sessions of hard slog. And now I'm sick of the damn song, but I still think it's one of the best. So there's no hard and fast rule. And then,
because you've toured around America as well. Nashville is one of the places that I would love to go to. I actually went to an APRA seminar recently, and they had Nashville songwriters visit New Zealand, and they were saying something about it's either you either embrace it or it's a shock. It's a shock to your system. And the ones that are most successful are the ones that stick around. Yeah. You never hear of X Joe if he's not in, Nashville for 2 years or whatever. But one of the things she was saying was over there in Nashville, they like to identify you as you're either a songwriter or you're either a artist. What's your take on that? Because, a lot of people are both.
Well, I think back in the 70s and 60s and 50s, that was definitely true. I think Bob Dylan changed that, and the Beatles and things like that. There was no such thing as singer-songwriters back in those days. There might have been Woody Guthrie. He was an absolute standout for them all. Woody Guthrie was Bob Dylan's biggest influence. But no, that's a very old-fashioned attitude. I don't think that's true anymore. But I mean, there are definitely a lot of staff writers in Nashville who don't perform. Some of them are terrible singers to start with. They can be great guitar players, great writers, but they just can't sing. So there's probably more concentration of those people in Nashville still than anywhere else in the world. But there's a lot of singer-songwriters now. I mean, you got Taylor Swift and all of these people. I mean, whatever you think of her, I've listened to all of her albums many, many times because I have a 16-year-old daughter and we do a lot of road trips. And you know what? She could be influenced by a lot worse people because she's a great singer-songwriter. I think she is anyway.
No, she is. She's a really good songwriter.
And so I think that's changed a lot, but there's still a lot of people there. I mean, you can buy all these books, and I love listening to audiobooks. And recently I've been listening to a few on songwriting, and anyone can be a songwriter. I truly believe it. In fact, we had a guy on our TV show, and he said he writes novels, and he said, and then there's a saying, everyone's got a novel inside of them, and he goes, yep, that's a true saying, and sometimes that's where it should stay.
Well, I heard from a teacher that's interesting because every child is born creative, but for some reason society teaches them to stop making mistakes, and part of creativity is to make mistakes because that's how you go somewhere different or somewhere new.
And that's the whole thing about co-writing is there are no mistakes. You've got to be free to just blurt out the most ridiculous thing and not be judged for it. And sometimes it's from that ridiculous thing that something comes out,
Based on that, what's been the most coolest mistake you've made in the studio that you didn't expect, but it kind of made the song?
It happens all the time.
Can you think of any?
You know what's great when a band, I toured in bands and I had the pleasure of playing 7 nights a week. Sometimes we used to do 8 gigs a week. We used to play twice on a Sunday and every night in one of my first bands. When a band is so tight and playing that amount of not just practicing but actually playing on stage, you make mistakes on stage, but the whole band makes the same mistake. You're that in sync. I truly believe in telepathy and all of that. When you're that tight as a band, and sometimes that mistake becomes part of the song. So this is why I'm a big believer in writing a song, getting out there, performing it before you record it, because a song starts taking shape live on stage. And so many times have you written a song, recorded it, taken it out on stage, and it's become so much better than the recording just through being feedback from a crowd and maybe one of those mistakes or something that happens. And then you go, damn, I wish I could go back and record it. This is how the song's meant to be. The song was so young when we recorded it in the studio. So, mistakes happen all the time. I mean, you can't even call them mistakes. I love the fact that you can have a song here and another song here, both half unfinished, you mash them together. Oh, wow, that's an imperfect song. I mean, that's...
Oh, Beatles or whoever used to do that all the time,
Paul
splicing
McCartney
the tape.
Used to do it a lot.
Section A of take 1 and section B of take 2.
Yeah, but even before you even record it, but you've got a half-finished song here. They're completely non-relate. You smash them together. There's a perfectly finished song with this amazing twist. And that's not really, it's kind of a mistake, but it's 2 half-finished songs smashed together.
You've been doing music for a long time. Is there anything you would tell a 20-year-old Jesse?
Yeah. Oh, lots of things. I'm 46 years old now. I forget my age. I started playing guitar when I was 11. I would tell, and that was after watching an Elvis special rerun, the Elvis comeback tour, and he's all dressed in black leather.
Is Elvis the guy that got you into...
He's the guy that got everyone into it. The Beatles, everyone. I tell you, I thought he was cool.
I love those Elvis in the Garden.
My birth name is Aron, and with 1A, and I was named after Elvis Presley. Elvis's middle name is Aron with 1A, apparently because Elvis's mum wasn't too smart and she didn't know how to spell Aron. So on his birth certificate or his driver's license, his social security, I've been to Graceland twice. I've seen all of those things. They were all spelled with 1A, Elvis Aron Presley. They misspelled his name on his gravestone. Another part of the myth that he's not really dead.
Not one of those Paul McCartney myths.
Double A Aron. I've been watching that too. We won't go down that road. But I would tell a young 20-year-old Jesse, as I tell any artist that comes into here, because they always ask me, how have you done, because I've done reasonably well out of music and other things, but mainly music's always been my focus. Other things have just been a hobby, like property investing. That was always just a hobby because my first property investment was my first house with my studio in it. And I only bought my first house to build the studio. I would say if you want to make money in music, the number one thing, people need money to survive, but you cannot focus on money if music's your dream. There are a million ways of easier ways to make money than music. Music's one of the hardest ways to make money. But I'll tell you, money made from doing something you love is the sweetest money. And that's the truth. Like, I could be earning 400 grand sitting at a desk selling my soul, being a financial advisor, or I could make 50 grand playing music, and the 50 grand is much sweeter than the 400 grand. But and how do you get to that point? You have to get into music because you love it. If you don't love it, you're never going to last long enough to make any money. And that's the key. So why you get into music for the pure love of it. In fact, most of my inspirational artists have quit several times. I've been close to quitting several times, but they can't quit. The problem is with music, it's a blessing and a curse. You try to quit it because you know how ridiculous it is.
It comes knocking back, doesn't it?
And it keeps knocking back at you. So you can't quit it. So you might as well... You can't quit it, so you might as well stop trying.
It's like an annoying uncle or something that just keeps
knocking. I mean, Bob Seger was on his 7th album before he had a #1 hit. He quit.
Thriller, Quincy Jones, he was like 40-something.
So, I mean, lots of stories like that. And he tried to quit, and because how ridiculous with bashing your head against a brick wall trying to make money and no one's believing in you and this and that. But if you don't love it to your core, you'll never stay in it long enough to make any real money out of it. And my other advice is this is the best advice I had. If you make enough dreams come true for other people, then your dream will surely come true. It's taking the focus off yourself. And my mother used to say this to me. She used to say, other people are more important than you. I don't believe that. I believe you are just as important as other people. But when you start taking other people are important. And you're equally important. And some people are so self-focused and they get determined, I'm going to make my music career, this and that. And the world closes in because you're just focusing on yourself. It's selfish. The universe isn't selfish. No. I'm a spiritual man. The universe is abundant. But if you start showing abundance and showering good fortune on other people, so I built my first studio. Several people I recorded for free because I needed to learn how to run this thing. And by giving that time and that energy out, that generous energy, and when I was recording to them for free, I was giving it everything I had. I wasn't just saying, this is a freebie. I won't spend a lot of my mental power on it. I will, and the more you do that, the more, and they start talking to people. Here's this guy who's really passionate. My music's never sounded so good, and you build it and they will come, like the old Kevin Costner movie, and that's what happens. And so you build a studio, you start making other people's dreams come true by recording their music.
Yep.
And then before you know it, my dream's coming true. I'm starting to be able to pay back all the, I extended, I had about 3 credit cards fully maxed. I took this massive leap of faith. My daughter's middle name, my daughter's 16 now, but she was born around the time I was building my first studio. Her middle name was Faith. And I used to say to her, have a little faith, Alicia, and she'd say, Daddy, Faith's my middle name. So, if I had a son, I would have called him, his middle name would have been Danger. But I never had a son.
No, that's great.
So the law of reciprocity, I know that's not how it's pronounced, but basically the more you give, the more you receive.
I'm a firm believer of that too. Yep, no, that's great. What other pleasures come from music? Is it the sense of community, or is it the sense of connecting with other creative people? What's something that you've learnt from, say, someone you never expected?
Owning a recording studio, and we are so busy, and I've been doing this professionally for, since I was 30, since 27, so almost 40 years, not almost 20 years, should I say. And I get surprised every day, and some people come in here and they're so shy, and then and they pick up a guitar and they just transform, or they're shy and then you have to coach it out of them, and then by the end of the session they are transformed because they're hearing themselves back, and then they come in the next time. And I always tell people, you get better at this each time you do it. Because the first time I went to a studio, I was kind of nervous and this and that. And the studio and live and practicing, they are three completely different things. And I just love to see how artists develop. And I noticed that I learned the most out of music from recording. Because on stage, you're so in the moment, you lose the moment. You know, unless you're filming it. So a lot of like great artists film and record every single show, like Springsteen's like that. So on the tour bus the next day or whatever, they watch their show. And that's dedication every night. But, you know, because that's how you're going to learn. Because otherwise, if you don't film it and record it, then you miss the moment. But that's why being in the studio, it's being recorded. And I've been in a session and gone, and I've had a producer say to me, you can't sing this song. This is not right for your voice. And I'm like, what? I wrote this song. And he was right. And I go home, but if I'm recording and it's just not working, and that bugs me all night, and I wake up in the morning and I figure it out. I go back into the studio and I nail it in the first take. And then the producer goes, oh, I apologize, I was wrong. And I go, no, yesterday you were right. But I learned from yesterday's recording. I played it back and I heard it and I heard it and I heard it, and I learned from it. And so, but I see that transformation all the time. And there's nothing more. When you know, people have got these dreams in their head about how their music should sound. And when you can capture that for them, especially in a short period of time, and it's not costing them thousands and thousands of dollars, and they walk out with us. Have I got a copy? Right here. So we can record an artist. They usually send me a few photos before the session. And this was a 2-hour session, 2 songs. She plays guitar and vocals. And she walks out in a 2-hour session with a fully finished CD, and she's like walks out with it like this, and that's cool, because that makes, I think that's just an amazing product. She can literally sell that right there. So we do all of this in the house. But yeah, so yesterday as an example, I never know what I'm to expect. I think they must have been 16, 17 years old, 2 high school students. One lives in Wellington, they're cousins, and one lives in Auckland, so they hardly ever get together. The fact that they'd booked this session, their father booked it for them, a 5-hour session. And I said, yeah, we'll probably get a couple of songs done in that, because they wanted every instrument. They came in, the fact that they'd booked the session, this is the other thing, they wrote 3 new songs, like in the space of like a few hours, just because they booked the session. That's what I love about recording too, because nothing motivates a songwriter more than running out of songs to record. That's what motivates me, you know, and it motivated the Stones too, because they'd get paid this big advance for a record, and then 2 days before they had to be in the studio, they'd spend it all on partying, as you would. Then the 2 days they had to sit down and write those damn songs, because they needed songs for a record. So the studio inspires songwriting, because you got a place to put your songs. Yeah. People, you sit around having hundreds of songs doing nothing with them. The universe is not going to give you any more songs. Shouldn't.
Nothing fuels, you know, creativity than a deadline, I think, because you've got...
And a place to put it.
Yeah,
a place to put that creativity. And so these 2 people turn up yesterday morning at 11 a.m. and they're like, we've got 5 songs. And I'm like, well, I don't know if we're going to get 5 songs done today. We've got 5 hours. This guy had no notes at all, and the girl had the lyrics on her phone. And she was like, we only wrote 3 of these songs yesterday. So Tyler, who's my number 1 engineer, who I love, a beautiful man, Tyler, he... was setting up the drums. We got an awesome drum kit in there. It's a John Bonham signature series, Mapex. And he's setting up all the mics around the drums, and he goes, well, why don't you just set up a click and record a guide vocal and guide guitar. By the time, it took him about an hour to set up the drums, which is pretty damn quick, all the mics.
That is, yeah.
And we had all 5 songs. We had guitar, click, and vocal for all 5 songs within that hour. They pretty much just bashed them out one after the next. Then he goes and sits at the drum kit, almost 1 or 2 takes per song, does all the drums, live drums. This is the same guy playing the guitar. Then he picks up my wife's bass guitar, and we've got a beautiful little Ampeg amp there, which is a really great sound. Plays the bass on all 5 songs, Then I set him up for recording acoustic guitar with my absolute favorite acoustic guitar miking technique, and the girl is singing in the room here, and we just bashed out 5 songs, acoustic guitar and vocals at the same time, probably 2 or 3 takes of each.
It's amazing.
5 out, and then do some guide mixes. Before you know it, we've got 5 songs done, drums, bass, acoustic guitar, vocals. He wanted to do the electrics. He's got a Logic Pro system at home in Wellington, and he's got special plugins that he wanted for his electric guitar, so he's going to do those remotely. 5 songs done.
Tyler was saying
those songs didn't exist yesterday. I love. He's taken it away, but Tyler has a little mouse mat which goes, "I listen to bands that don't exist yet." I love that.
I love that quote. He was saying, Tyler was saying that this studio has produced some of the best drum recordings he's heard, and he's been to.
He's worked
studios,
in all the studios.
What do you think makes that drum sound?
That's a really good question, but he has been telling people, and we've had some great drummers in like Peter Warren from DD Smash, and he backed it up.
Dave Dobbins band.
Dave Dobbins band, and that's a very big room out there. It's got polished concrete floor, and we do put some little carpet down, just some. The ceiling is sound treated, so that was kind of my own design. Marshall Day Acoustics did the acoustics design for this building. They're probably the best firm in New Zealand, I truly believe. They're up on Simon Street. They helped me design my first studio, which I technically didn't pay them for because it was. I was working for a building contractor when I told you I got a job, and we were building another studio at an intermediate school, very wealthy intermediate school with their own recording studio. So at the end of the site meetings, I'd slip my own studio plans out, and they would be giving me notes. These guys charge hundreds of dollars an hour, like really quite good. And then before they didn't know how much we charge an hour after they give me this advice, and I'd roll up my plans, I'd say thank you, and I'd sneak out. And then we laughed about it, but I always said, when I build my next studio, you're going to be my acoustics engineer, and I was true to my word on that. So yeah. I think it's a big space. It's a combination of, we've got the brick that came from Spain. That brick feels and looks like real brick, but it's actually made out of a type of fiberglass, and it's hand painted by a sculpture, and it was installed by a sculpture. So I think the unevenness of the brick and the fact it's not real brick, it's kind of acoustic treated. The unevenness of the concertina door, which is an acoustically treated door, just the different hard and soft. That's the key, is a mixture of hard and soft. You see all these walls have been designed with a mixture of hard and soft. So, specifically designed that way. The glass is sloping, and there's just something about that room that it's big, but it's bouncy, but not too bouncy, and that's the key. You want some bounce, but not, and it's just a perfect combination of hard and soft.
And I might get our director to do a few cutaways, but leaving on that note, we're going to leave on a cliffhanger, because this time we've decided we're going to take the show into 2 parts, thanks to a viewer's comment. Hello to Richard. Thank you for that comment. This is the first part. This is the wonderful interview of Jesse Wilde in his Studio 38 studio. Make sure you click like on this video, hit subscribe, hit the bell button, and stay tuned, as we are going to take the next part. We're going to give that to you, not now, but soon. So subscribe, share this video to one friend, and thanks. We're still going to do a tour.
Cool.
But thanks for this part of the show.
Very welcome.
Jesse, stay cool, stay creative, everyone.